Hey, welcome back, everybody, to The Late Show. Folks, my guest tonight is a British actor, a comedian, and an author. Please welcome Russell Brand. Nice to finally meet you. We just met backstage a second ago.
Even since then, our relationship's evolved.
A little bit. One of the things I asked you is that I understand you're not huge on talk shows. You don't like small talk that much.
I do worry about small talk, because in the back of my mind, during some small talk, I might suddenly realise that we are mortal and death is coming. Cruel death. The icy hand doth cometh. So sometimes that distracts me from the old small talk, Stephen.
No, I know the feeling. Death looms at all times.
And... it's looming right now.
Right. Why are we here, Russell Brand? Why is there something instead of nothing?
Do you think it's to move towards oneness? Could the tendency be unity? Could there be some consciousness trying to realise itself through material?
Well, I thought the universe was expanding, and eventually entropy will bring us to sort of absolute neutral room temperature throughout the universe, and we'll suffer heat death, and there will be nothing, not even energy.
But, Stephen, 70% of the universe is dark matter. It's inconceivable. It can't be held within consciousness. We don't know the rules of the universe yet. As your great Herman Melville says, all human science is but passing fables. Everything we hold as our credo, all the knowledge we have built, where does it leave us? I am Ozymandias, king of kings, alone in the desert. Civilizations fall, Stephen. Rome fell. This too must pass. What are we going to do? It's still looming. It's looming.
That's true. That's very true. In the meantime, you have a book. We're going to sell some books right now.
Don't you trivialize this.
Oh, I'm not. We're talking about your book, which is a significant document where you're talking about, it's called Recovery, subtitle, Freedom from Our Addictions.
Yeah.
Can you really have freedom from your addiction, or can you only hold your addiction at bay?
Stephen, it depends, I suppose, how one interprets addiction. If you see addiction perhaps as a yearning to connect that our culture doesn't know how to service, then you can have freedom from the malevolent manifestations of addiction. If addiction is a drive to know truth, or in another lexicon, to know God, to know oneness, that we are unable to medicate successfully because our culture tells us that there is no meaning, tells us we are but material, tells us that we are individuals trapped in flesh, only here to consume. And there are some people that just can't bear that, and so they take a little bit of heroin to unwind.
Yes. That's true. As Thomas Merton said, that ourselves we clothe, we wrap in the bandages of other people's perceptions of us, or in our appetites and pleasures. And we say, oh, those bandages, that is ourself, without ever looking what's underneath the bandage, which is a hole in our heart the size of God.
Oh, I like the size of that. That's very beautiful.
Thanks, so... I stole it.
He wouldn't have minded, would he? He'd have said, like, had you been able to ask that Thomas Burton and say, I'm going to say that in the future on a chat show, he'd probably had a few questions about the way that society's evolved, but I reckon after you'd answer those, he'd go, yeah, don't mind, go on, mate.
Yeah, he was,
all that
he
stuff
was a monk.
Swaddling.
He was a monk. He didn't have possessions.
Sometimes don't you think that's the answer, Stephen? Sometimes I think if I was dressed in religious garb, then people wouldn't trouble me with trivia. You know, if I had a hooded robe and stuff like that, perhaps that's the answer, to announce yourself physically as religious. I mean, I'm trying to look like Jesus, but it's not working.
The robe would help. The robe would help a lot.
Possibly it would help.
Now, you have or had addictions. You've had some trouble or some experience or some adventures, however you want to describe it, with the self-abuse of intoxicants. What did you learn about getting off them that would help the rest of us?
What I learned is that no matter what the presentation is of the addiction, it could be food, it could be sex, it could be drugs, it could be money, and I've tried all of them, that I have, really excessively. I've really done myself a terrible mischief. That the drive behind it is the same drive. If you learn to understand this drive, if you are able to communicate with it correctly, then you can have freedom. So I suppose what I'm saying is that people that are drug addicts, they are merely the outliers. They are the creatures that fly to the high ground before the tsunami arrives. But all of us are attaching somehow, aren't we, to temporary illusions, the swaddling of your Thomas Burton there. You know, all of us are clinging to things like drowning men. And I suppose that the answer is found in connection. So I suppose the quick answer, which is a bit late for, let's face it now, is connection.
No, you talk about, you went through the 12 steps of recovery.
Yes, sir.
You have your own interpretations of them.
Yes.
Okay, they're not exactly the 12 steps as some people might know them. If I gave you a couple of the 12 steps, could you interpret them for me?
I'll do that for you,
let's do the first three, okay?
Okay.
You say, okay, here's step number one in the 12 steps, and you interpret. Number one, we admit that we are powerless over our addiction and that our lives have become unmanageable.
Are you a bit?
2, we come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Could you not be?
We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him.
Are you, on your own, gonna yourself?
And if you can ask, when did you ask yourself those 3 questions?
I'm continually asking myself.
Okay, you got into a Twitter feud with our president.
Oh yes, you've got a president, and I got into a feud with him via Twitter, like all dignified people must.
Okay, is there such a thing? Do you think there's such a thing as a Twitter addiction?
If you're asking me if Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has addiction, certainly the middle syllable seems particularly pertinent.
It's a small syllable.
I'd say it's barely there at all.
This is the kind of connection you're talking about right now.
It's a brief interruption in the nothingness, isn't it, Steve? Like that syllable, so tiny as barely to be there. So I think is he a bit Yes. Could he not be God, that's tricky. 3, does he need help to himself? Well, yeah, but who's going to do it and what would you use? Did I do well?
You did so well. You did so well. I'm curious to see how much of this will make it to air.
Oh, come on!
Well, recovery, freedom from our addictions is out now. Russell Brand, everybody. We'll be right back.